I've been living in Japan for 1 year and 2 months. And what I do in Japan, I work in an art museum as an art attendant.
All right, so in that museum, like,
Yeah.
what kind of art? Because I mean, there's a bunch of different museums, right?
Yeah. It's digital art. So
like Team Lab?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Okay.
Yeah. So, lots of digital art, and then my job is basically to, understand the artwork, greet the customers, and guide the customers, and make sure they have a good experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's in Japanese, right?
So, I have to speak to my managers and my colleagues in Japanese, but the customers, mostly in English, but there's some Japanese customers as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, by doing this is obviously improving your Japanese a lot because you're using it every day.
Definitely. I feel like when I first came into the job, my Japanese then versus now is like night and day.
Oh, really? Right.
It literally is night and day, because when I first joined the job, I tried doing the N2 once and then I failed.
Right.
And then 4 months after I was in the job, I tried once again and then I passed.
And what?
N2.
N2. Okay,
N2.
so you passed that, so that means you're going to do N1.
No plans to do that yet. I'm just trying to improve my Japanese.
Okay.
Without having to focus on the test.
All right, I see.
Yeah.
So since you're working in a museum so long, you know like a lot of digital museum stuff. Like stuff that you didn't know before, like obviously by explaining like these things every day, you know about it well, right?
Yeah.
So you have all this information in your mind about these things, right?
Yeah.
So what about that can you tell us? Because all of us haven't been to your museum, so tell us something random that something random or interesting to you that
I think the one interesting thing about working in a museum, especially if it's digital art, is that with immersive museums, some people are so fixed on the idea of it's immersed that they forget about their surroundings, right? Because, they're there to have fun, right? So, and because of that, they don't follow the rules often.
Okay, what do you mean by they don't follow the rules?
Let's just say, for example, in a museum, you say, I don't know, don't touch the art. Some people will touch the art, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
If you say to some people, don't run in the museum, some people will run, right?
Okay.
So stuff like that. But anything really specific about the art, if I say that, then I'll be giving away where I work. So I can't say too much.
Oh, you don't want to say where you work? I see. Okay.
Yeah.
But is it like that important they follow the rules? Like, as a worker, if they don't follow the rules or if they do follow it, does it impact you in any negative way?
I mean, I guess so. Let's just say, for example, I was the person who enforced the rule, who told the customer not to do something.
Okay.
And then in the end, they kept doing that and they damaged the art, right? Then that would be my responsibility for not warning the customer.
Oh, I see.
Appropriately, right?
Okay.
So, I have to try my best to tell the customers as much as possible to follow the rules. So then, we can have a smooth flow.
I see, right.
So it's all about having a smooth flow, because once you have a smooth flow, then it's smooth for all the customers, right?
Okay. And when you say people don't follow the rules, is it like a specific race or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting that you say that. Is it a specific race? It just depends, because I feel like everybody is likely to do that.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, everybody.
I've heard that Chinese people in particular don't really follow the rules. I don't know. I don't work in that kind of field, so I don't know if it's true. But I heard so from just like in general.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have that similar opinion.
I wouldn't say that that's the case.
Oh,
the Chinese people who go to the museum where I work in, it's, they tend to follow the rules. Okay. The thing which might be a bit of a tricky thing sometimes is the language barrier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So some of them may understand English, some of them may not. But what I've noticed is that Chinese people actually understand more English than Japanese people.
Oh yeah, I mean, in my experience, any other Asian country knows more English than Japan.
Yeah.
And it's no comparison to Europe, of course.
Yeah. Exactly.
Everyone in Europe knows English.
A lot of people in Europe. But I think one thing which is interesting is that, in Japan, when it comes to customer service, Japanese people expect, their customer service to be extremely high. So they're almost like God, right? So then when things don't go, the way Japanese people want it to go, sometimes they can make a bigger deal compared to the other customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like in what way they make a big deal? Any examples?
I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say I said to a customer the other day, you're not allowed to bring in your bag, right?
To a Japanese person.
So a Japanese person. And then they said, I have my water in here and I have, a cloth in here, just to take care of my baby.
Mm-hmm.
There's a likelihood that my baby might vomit.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, I understand. But, in terms of safety, you can't bring it inside. And then they said, no, we need it. And then in the end, they just said, more E, and then they walked off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then they walked off, and then I was just thinking, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, because Japanese people are like more inclined to follow the rules, right? They're like those kinds of people, right? So I'm very surprised.
That's the thing. I feel like working in a place which is all about fun and immersion, right? Where you're giving the customer a service.
Right.
You tend to see all types of people, right? Especially with Japanese people. I think through working there, I understood fully the different types of people Japanese people can be, right? From, the really polite, the really kind, to the really frustrating and the really demanding people, right?
You would experience those things.
Yeah.
I will only experience the they probably wouldn't know this, but tatemae version.
Yeah, you already experienced the tatemae.
Yeah, like no, right? I'm not going to see the person because I'm not interacting with a wide range of people, right?
You're not interacting.
I'm just interacting with strangers and my friends who I'm comfortable with, right?
Exactly.
Oh, but you're gonna get like everybody.
Hundreds and thousands of people.
Right.
For the most part, I feel the interactions are quite sweet because they look at me and then I'm really tall, right?
Yeah. I saw in a video you said you were like 200.
Yeah, 207. Yeah.
I was like, dude, this guy is Skytree.
I am the Skytree.
Yeah, man. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So because I'm really tall, a lot of people just look at me, right? They make comments like, oh wow, this guy's so tall. They want to take pictures with me
because you're tall.
Because I'm tall. And then especially the kids who go into the museum as well, they'll look at me and then they'll wave at me, right? They'll be really happy, they'll start waving at me, they'll try and talk to me, and that leads to some really interesting interactions, right? So yeah.
Okay, and of course, like you're living in Japan, I've seen on your Instagram you've made like many friends.
Yeah.
So would you say that friends are like people from your country or like in general any like?
I'll definitely say I've made friends from everywhere. I like to think I have more Japanese friends than foreign friends, but people who I hang out with regularly tend to be the people from my work, right?
Oh, okay. So those people you post on your Instagram is people from your job?
Either people from my job or people I've met from anywhere. It just depends, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how easy like you thought it was like to make friends in Japan? Because a lot of people say it's difficult and some people say it's easy. I think it's case by case. But I've heard more people say it's difficult than people saying it's easy.
More say it's difficult than it being easy. But in my case, at first, right, I came with the impression from all the videos that everybody puts on social media, it's going to be really hard to make friends. So once I moved into the country, the first 2 or 3 months, I felt like, why am I hanging out with friends once and then I never see them again?
Same.
Right?
Yeah,
and I'm like, what did I say? What did I do? Is it really true that it's difficult to make friends in Japan, right? So then I was like, okay, let's keep doing this, right? Let's keep meeting people and see how it goes. And I kept doing that. And then some of those friends I'll meet once, twice, 3 times, many times, and I'll become closer and closer. And then, we'll kind of develop friendship like that. But if a lot of your interactions are just hanging out with people once and then they don't want to see you again, I can understand why some people would feel like, oh, it's harder to make friends with Japanese people. But what I've noticed is that Japanese people want to develop a sense of trust and understanding with that person first before they further the friendship more, right? So I think in that aspect, compared to making friends with Western people, they wear their heart on their sleeve. A lot more people in the West, right? So because of that, you're able to get more of a deeper conversation quicker, right? And then form a more of a friendship quicker with those sort of people. So maybe in that aspect, that's why a lot of people think it's easier to make friends with Western people.
Yeah.
Although making friends anywhere in the world is hard, and a lot of people don't have that experience of making friends outside of the workplace or university or particular kind of situations. So when they go to another country, they're not in any environment where they can regularly meet people. So because they're not putting themselves out there, that's the reason why they're finding it more difficult to adjust and integrate. And because a lot of people, they don't have the language ability as well.
Oh yeah, well, that's something.
That's the biggest barrier.
I think that's the biggest one. Yeah,
it's the biggest one, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only option is speak to people who are learning English, right?
Yeah.
Because they would want to speak to you because they're practicing, right?
Exactly.
In my opinion, when I go overseas, it's much easier to make friends because you can make friends anywhere, right?
Anywhere.
You don't have to like hang out with you and then you introduce me to your friends.
Yeah.
You don't have to rely on something specific, right? I can just go anywhere and make friends. And I think that if you hang out with one Japanese person often, it's easier to build that trust and, you'll develop a relationship that way. So in my opinion, if you want to make friends, like stick to one person.
Yeah.
And hang out with them regularly and then slowly introduce someone else new into it or try to make a new friend.
Really? Because I feel like I have a different outlook to that because I still have the outlook of talk to as many people as you can, right?
Oh, I see. I mean,
and then the people who you get along with more, hang out with them more, sort of thing,
yeah,
right?
well, that's also, for me, in my opinion, when you hang out with, like, let's say me and you hang out often, we're going to develop memories and we have things to talk about.
Yeah.
And we're going to feel more comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
And we'll be more inclined to choose each other to hang out over other people.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it.
Yeah, but then it depends because people have different schedules. Especially in Japan, right?
Yeah,
a lot of people are busy.
Right.
And then how it works is that if their weekdays, right, are filled with just work and they do overtime or they don't want to make plans after work, then they only have the weekends. And a lot of Japanese people, they have their weekends packed.
Okay.
So you have to make a couple of weeks in advance to hang out with them, right? With a lot of Japanese people. So if you just make friends with one person, they're not going to consistently be free every week.
Right.
So because of that, making friends with many people, you can guarantee that you at least have someone to hang out with every week.
When you're ready.
When you're ready or when they're ready, right? So that's my opinion. And another thing I feel is, even though it takes more time to make friends with a Japanese person, once you have that established friendship, it's more solid compared to a friendship in, a Western country. Because I feel like because it's a lot easier to make friends with people in other places, right? It's a lot easier to stop talking to them, right? So, so this phenomenon happens a lot where you'd speak to someone like you've known them for years in a Western country, and then after that meeting alone, you'll be strangers again. Right? But then, I don't know, in Japan, that also happens as well. But then if you were to build that friendship, then I feel like because friendship has a specific meaning in itself here, strong meaning here, it'll be more likely to last for a longer period of time. Obviously, I have to test this, right, for myself and see how long my friendships go. Because obviously, my longest friendship is probably like around 2 or maybe 3 years with a Japanese person from language exchange, then moving to Japan and talk to them more, right? So then I'd have to see how this goes 5 years time or 10 years time. Also, another thing what I've noticed is that in Western countries, you'd see on social media people saying there's a lot of people who are fake, right?
Okay.
You'll hear that sentiment a lot. And I'm not too sure if you'd hear that in Japan, but I feel like there's different kind of, social, problems and social norms that come to making friends with Japanese people. And the biggest thing what I've seen so far is my experiences when talking to Japanese people is a lot of them can be kind of flaky also, right? Let's just say, for example, you make a plan with someone, right? And then that person has a better plan coming along, right? They would be more likely to choose that plan and then make a lie to you.
Oh, really?
Saying, okay, I'm feeling sick.
Right? That's a famous one.
Yeah.
I know.
They'll never say, I don't want to go because I have another thing coming up.
Yeah,
They'll say,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
feeling sick, right?
Right.
And then sometimes they don't make a follow-up plan saying, okay, let's meet up another time.
I know.
Or they'll make up a follow-up plan but never follow through, right? So then because of that, it makes it quite tricky, you know, in that sense. Okay, I made this plan with this person, but are they going to follow through? I think the most infamous time that happened to me was when I made a plan with someone 2 months ahead.
Oh, that's another thing what Japanese people do. Yeah.
I made a plan 2 months ahead.
Yeah.
And then I think either on the day or the day before, cancelled.
Yeah, that's
like literally just cancelled.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, this sucks, man. This really does suck.
I know, because you made it so long, you waited.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when they say they're sick, like on the day, I'm like, okay, oh, that's like, I can tell. I'm like, all right, this person's like not interested. Just like, forget that person.
Yeah, what do they call it in Japanese? They call it dotakyan, right?
I don't know, I never heard, but
really?
is that it?
They call it dotakyan. So last minute cancel. And then when I was in work, like one of my friends is like, dotakyan no hito wa mecha warui ne? And they're just like, don't speak to that person at all. And then I was like, oh my God. So,
well, for me to avoid that, I try to like confirm, because if I want to do something on that day, and I have like a feeling about this person based on experience, I will try to confirm. You know, like, are you really going? And you know, like if I happen to have a plan on that day and it clashes, right? I might message that person and be like, oh, you know, are you sure or whatever?
Yeah.
And if they don't reply, I'll just automatically assume it's not on and replace that schedule. And if they do have a stick to the plan, I'm like, well, you didn't reply, then I will say I'm sick. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah, because you can't be kept on hold.
You can't.
Right? That's not fair to you, right?
But I mean, you can't be kept on hold, but I feel like a lot of people do that to people nowadays because
but that's not nice.
There's an abundance of choice when it comes to people, right? And that's the reason why people are kind of flimsy when it comes to certain things. Not everyone, of course. And I feel
not me. I respect. I respect people's time.
Of course, like as people should respect people's time.
Yeah,
right? Especially, you're never getting that time back. Yeah. So if someone just cancels on you on the day, then you got a full schedule.
Right, to do nothing, right?
Yeah, to do nothing.
Yeah. Speaking about parties, you should come to my rooftop party I'm having later this month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll tell you more about that later.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I wanna ask you next.
Yeah.
London, right?
London.
Japan.
Yeah.
Is there a difference? Sure, there's a big difference, right? London life.
Oh, there's a big difference. I mean, mostly it's just the people and the buildings. If I start off with the buildings, with London, right? Because it doesn't have as many natural disasters and stuff, you got buildings and places that have been there for like hundreds of years, right? And they're mostly intact. So the architecture really dates back, right?
I see. Okay.
So with Tokyo, it just depends. There's some things which are the government and places go out of their way to preserve, right? But as natural disasters happen, sometimes they can be damaged when it comes to that. But when it comes to people, I feel like if you think about the world very simply, right, in 3 categories, you got Japanese people, you got British people, and then you got American people, right? Japanese people, they're more shy, right, socially. British people, they're polite, they can be a little bit shy, but they're still a lot more outgoing than Japanese people. And then you got American people who are really outgoing and really direct, and they don't know how to read the room sometimes, right? So because of that, the UK being in between these sort of two things, there's some similarities in terms of Japanese and British people being, it taking a little bit longer to kind of trust and get to know people. That's similar to Japanese people. Right. There being a culture of politeness, that's also a thing in the UK as well. But I feel like in the UK, people are more open to talk about, their feelings, right? So they're more open to talk about their feelings and everything going on in life. Whereas, in Japan, people keep a lot of things more to themselves, right? So because it's quite similar, I didn't find it too difficult to adjust, but there'll just be some times where I just didn't know some things, right? And I just had to learn by, making mistakes.
I think there's a difference too, speaking to females than males. So for me, in my experience,
Oh yeah.
Talking to the same gender, it's gonna be a different atmosphere, right? You could be more open.
Yeah.
And in my experience, they are more open naturally, and they say more things and they express themselves more. But the Japanese girls, maybe for all girls in general, they have to kind of be wary because they don't want to give up the wrong signal, the wrong vibe.
Yeah.
To make you think, oh, I'm into you, right? And vice versa. We always have to talk in such a way not to disrespect them.
Yeah.
Right? Or say the wrong thing.
Exactly.
But with guys, you basically could just say what you want, right?
You can
you can get away with it, right?
Yeah.
But for females, you don't wanna like get them offended, and you don't even know, right?
Exactly.
And on their end, they don't want to send mixed signals.
Exactly.
So have you like had similar experiences?
Yeah, I know what you mean, because
Yeah.
I remember watching a video. It's a very interesting video when someone said it's easier to get a date than it is to make friends in Japan, like guy friends in Japan. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I have this image that guys are just guys anywhere you go in the world. And because you have that, similar kind of, similarity, you being a similar gender, there's a lot of things you basically don't have to think about, and you can say and express, and you don't have to think about like additional kind of layer towards it. But I guess with women in general, a lot of guys all over the world, they try to take care with the things that they say, because they try their best not to offend or make someone feel uncomfortable, especially if women the other way, not give off the wrong signals, and etc. So it just makes it a lot more difficult. Though what I've noticed about Japanese women in general, they tend to be a lot more shyer and a lot more reserved compared to women, in other countries. And depending on the woman as well, some of them may not have so much confidence, because I feel like Japanese society in itself is very kind of, they have like a strong idea when it comes to presentation and image, right? So because they have a very strong idea when it comes to presentation, image, and even weight to some degree, right?
Okay.
It makes a lot of the women here feel more conscious, right? And if someone is more conscious about the way they look, then that could affect their confidence as well. And that's the reason why when I speak to a lot of Japanese women, then they say, when I lived abroad, I didn't have to care about as many things.
Yeah, true.
I could dress a lot more expressively, and then society wouldn't judge me as much. And that's the reason why I enjoyed being in a Western country compared to Japan, because, people's eyes weren't on me as much compared to other places.
It's like a reverse culture shock. So for us, when we come to Japan, we're like, you have to do this, you have to do this. I'm like, all these rules? I'm like, what? Yeah. Right? So we feel like more like restricted, right?
Exactly.
So for them, it's going to be the opposite, right? So when they go away, they'll be like, oh, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. Exactly. You don't care about it. What? Right? Yeah. So while they feel more free, we feel more like, kind of restricted and in control, right? Because in our countries, you could like say what you want, like you could break a lot of the rules. Yeah. It's not that controlled. The rules are not maintained that much, right? Have you felt like when you came to, Japan, it was like so much rules to follow, but by now we're accustomed, right? Yeah. But it was kind of like troublesome, right?
I think it was interesting because before I came to Japan, I knew enough of the language, enough of the culture and everything about it that I didn't feel too much restriction when I came. I was like, okay, that's how it is. Right. And then as I lived here longer, I understood more of the rules that I didn't know previously, that you'd only know when you'd live here, right? Okay. Something as simple as when you're on a packed train, make sure to hold your rucksack, on the front of you, as opposed to the back, into people, right? Yeah. Or when you go on an escalator, make sure to stand one step behind someone else, right? Don't stand right next to them.
Right.
Yeah, just little things like that. And I feel like there's enough of those little things that you have to keep in mind, and it just builds up over time, and then you have more of an understanding of how things work, right? Okay. Yeah.
So I want to ask you next about your Instagram page.
Okay.
How do you get the ideas how to make those videos in the first place? Do you have like friends helping you, or you just like randomly think about it?
The thing is that I feel like with my Instagram, it's interesting because I either get the ideas from myself, like it can come from anywhere. When I'm working, when I'm in the shower, when I'm walking somewhere, when I just look at something and then something just sparks in my mind. It's either like that, or sometimes my friend will be like, this is an interesting trend, what I've been seeing recently. Why don't you try something similar? And then I'll be like, you know what? Right, why not? Or sometimes something random just happens, right? And I'm like, I have to start recording. Like I remember one time, the inspiration for one of my videos is that I was in the karaoke, and then I just come out the toilet, and then two Japanese guys just say to me, you know, sega takai. And I'm just like, okay. So I start talking to them, and then I'm like, okay, you know, come to our karaoke room. We want to surprise our friends. So then I was like, okay, is it okay to record? And then they're like, sure. So they'll start recording the video, open the room, and then they're all surprised.
Right.
So I feel like it comes from a lot of different experiences and events, and then just being able to, you know, act kind of spontaneously. That's what helps as well. Because if you don't have that spontaneous nature, it can be a bit, you know, tricky sometimes, right?
And you have like a specific camera guy?
No. It depends. It's whoever I'm with.
And they just hold the camera for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So
okay.
whoever I'm with, or I just hold it myself, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the videos are done from my perspective, just holding the camera.
And what motivated you to start doing this in the first place?
So I mean, I remember at one point I had like a really low period when I was in Japan for like 1 month, and I was like, I need to do something. Unlike video editing, it's been like a couple of months since I've edited any videos. But let's bring together all the videos I recorded when I was traveling around Japan, and then make something. So then I just got going, and as soon as I got going, I started experimenting, trying different things, editing, clipping some moments from another video creator who's my friend, and then that goes viral. I'm like, wow, that works. I should do more stuff like that. And then, you know, got the ball rolling. And then from doing these things, these light ideas, what came to mind, I was getting a lot of traction from this. So I continued to do that, continued to reach out to people like yourself, and then, you know, got interviewed, and then it is how it is right now.